It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job, episode 117 today. My name is Mike. That's Brian.
Yo. Today we have Charlie Evans, president of California Rock Crushers. How are you, Charlie?
Well, I'm doing great. It's great to be with you.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for. Did I get that right? Usually I ask prior to make sure I got everything correct in terms of title and all that, and I did not ask. I just kind of assumed based on what I saw on LinkedIn.
Oh, you got it right. You hit it right on the money.
Awesome.
Very cool. Well, hey, Charlie, give us a breakdown and history of how you got started in the industry and how you got to where you're at today with being the president of California Rock Crushers.
Well, it was a very tumultuous beginning. You know, we started with very little money, and most entrepreneurs do, and just you start your day on your knees, and you hope that the Lord blesses you on the way. And so me and my brother started this business back in the year 2000, and just through sheer tenacity and hard work, we've made it to this far. My brother and I parted company about maybe 15 years ago. He decided to go into the ministry, and so it was just me after that, and I sure miss him. He was a great partner, and that's how we got started.
All right.
So before 2000, did you guys have any experience in the industry at all? What led you to start your own company?
Well, we worked in my father's family business. My father was a very successful man, a great teacher, and a great mentor, but he hated rock crushers. He owned a rock crusher, and I am not kidding you. When we got our first rock crusher, we had about 300,000 tons of demolition waste to crush, and he literally pointed his two teenage sons at the rock crusher and said, "There it is, guys. Back up that pile and crush it." I am not kidding you. We're lucky we didn't kill ourselves. That's how we learned to crush rock. We never crushed for hire because my father just hated that crusher because it was nothing but a maintenance nightmare. But that's kind of where we cut our teeth in the crushing industry.
So when you say rock crushing, I'm picturing, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody goes in and demos like a concrete building or a concrete tilt up, and they've got the big chunks of concrete. You guys go in and grind that up and make it easier to move and more manageable?
That is correct. We back in the day, things were much more antiquated than they were today. They required cranes and forklifts and everything to erect. But and now with new green initiatives, we turn concrete and asphalt, brick, block, and tile into all different types of products. So it's gotten a little more sophisticated for the 21st century than it was back when all we made was road base. So things have certainly come a long way.
Wow. What are some of the things you guys turn that stuff into? That's kind of interesting.
By the way, Charlie, we've had a lot of different contractors on the show and a lot of different
117
companies.
episode.
You're the first rock crusher that we've had on the show.
This is fascinating.
So, thank
we
you.
are very new to this. So yeah,
I'm so honored to represent our industry. So thank you for having me. Let's just start with asphalt. So typically, we turn old asphalt back into a product where they can rerun it through their barrels and turn it right back into asphalt.
Right.
And now we're starting to fractionate asphalt. Well, actually, we have been for quite some time, so they can add it into greater quantities. And we've gotten that training and technology through the Aztec Corporation, who's really on the forefront of being able to introduce actually up to 50% now back into new asphalt. So it's really a green way of making roads.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of there's a lot of science that goes into that. Asphalt needs to be smooth enough to drive on, but it also needs to be abrasive enough so when you step on your brakes, your tires have something to grip to. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's a lot that goes into putting down a road, and again, we can thank a lot of our success to our partners in the business, and So that's how we kind of go after the asphalt side of things. When it comes to concrete, we're making concrete now. We're splitting that apart where they're actually starting to use our recycled back into virgin concrete. And that's got a little farther to go because we need some tests on how it's going to hold up. You know,
Right.
in high rises and bridges, you know, you need some long-term testing to go along to make sure that it's going to survive the time-honored test of, like some of those monuments the Romans built. Hey, they
Right.
used good stuff back then. We need
Right.
to make sure our stuff holds up as well. So, so that's a little slower because we need time to validate what we're doing. So, and then of course, we're always out in the middle of a freeway or in the back of a batch plant making road base, as well as processing, hard rock, sand, and gravel and whatnot. So, anyway, that's it in a nutshell.
That's all.
Reader's
That's
Digest
interesting.
version.
So other than the fact that it's probably a pain in the ass and cumbersome and requires equipment, is there a reason a demolition contractor doesn't do this on their own and hires somebody like you?
Well, some of them do, and some of them don't. It just depends on how much moxie they have and how much skin they want to throw in the game. So obviously, if crushing rock's your bread and butter, you're probably going to do it a little more efficiently than the guy that actually tears up roads for a living or a guy that
Right.
builds roads for a living. So if you're let's just say you're marching down one of the interstates and you've got a mile of road to put in the next month, you probably want to make sure you've got a good team putting in that road mile after mile after mile. So that's why a large company would call us as opposed to maybe trying to get at it. And some of them do it very successfully, by the way, in-house. So they self-perform very successfully, and then some contractors rely on us.
Now, if I understand correctly, you guys aren't laying down the road. You're just simply crushing the rock and then turning it over to them, and then they're deciding on which portion of that crushed rock that they're going to utilize for the road.
That is correct. We our scope of work always is rock crushing. We're not demo guys. We're not contractors. In fact, we're viewed by the government as manufacturers. We turn a regurgitated product into something that they can use. So we're never involved in the building of anything.
So as a manufacturer, then, are you, kind of going back to the Roman days, like you were talking about in terms of the product that they had, are you reverse engineering in a way, kind of what they were doing, and then crushing the rock and then pulling the good stuff out and leaving the bad and then selling it to these companies that are creating, for instance, either the concrete or the roadways, the interstates?
Well, we're not in the retail side of the business. All we do is support, quarries or contractors. We don't actually get involved, or very rarely do we get involved in actually selling the material. Obviously, we've been in business a long time, and our tentacles go out into the industry quite a bit. So when there are surpluses available, we can usually reach out to partners in the business somewhere and help facilitate overages when job sites or freeways or something doesn't quite balance out.
Right.
But as far as the scope of work when we're on site, that's typically given to us by the local municipality or the state or the contractor, whoever we're working for. They'll usually tell us what we need to make. So when we go in, we can bring the proper equipment.
I understand.
And how much of it are you doing? 100% of it off-site, or I guess on location, not necessarily in a permanent location where you have, right? You're not bringing material back and forth. You're doing it all on location.
Well, probably about 99.9% of our business is always on another man's property.
Right.
So we're usually backed up to an asphalt plant or batch plant or out on a freeway or in a recycle yard or backed up to a mountain somewhere crushing
Right.
some rock. So we're a portable rock crushing company who travels the southern states.
That makes it easy.
Yeah.
From a labor standpoint, what kind of labor are you guys looking for? How do you guys go about finding? I mean, is it specialized? Can you train them on the machinery? How does that work for you guys?
Anybody in the industry will tell you that labor is always a challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you need a guy that's willing to get underneath and shovel out a plant in 100-degree heat or minus 20-degree weather, and be smart enough to work through the technical issues that may come up during the day. So he's a tough individual to find when it comes to leadership. And they're really the key to our business. They are our most precious asset, I don't mind telling you, as our employees. So we like to search far and wide to find, first of all, people with a little common sense, people that are wise, and also hardworking. So when we find that individual, we'll train them up from the ground up. We'll start them on the ground and get them used to rock crushing and move them into equipment. And along the way, they're picking up leadership skills from their foremen, from their superintendents, and on how to make good, wise decisions. And hopefully, when the day and the opportunity arises, they'll be moved into a foreman's position. And that's kind of the slow progression. And what I just described to you might take 5 years.
Right.
So we started with one plant back in the year 2000. We're running up to 12 plants now at any given time. And I will tell you that that what holds us back isn't equipment. It's always the qualified manpower to do the job.
Right.
So, because that's really anybody's that does what we do. That's their biggest challenge, is getting the right man on the right tool for the job.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you're really looking for a lot of those intangible things in an employee before necessarily the hands-on or the technical things that you think you can teach them there. Where have you been most successful finding those type of people?
Well, this is probably going to be a shock to you both, but some of our most successful foremen have been carpet layers, truck drivers, dairy farmers, all those guys that just know how to work hard, that I don't have to untrain to come around our stuff.
Right.
And they only know one way, and that's the cow crush way. And so I don't necessarily look for people that have been in the industry a long time. I look for people that, like I said, have a little common sense or are not afraid to work hard. And those are the guys we look for.
Are these people that you're actively seeking? Are you running into them when you're out, on some job site? I don't know how you would run into a dairy farmer, but how
we're
are
in
you?
dairy country.
That's true. That's true.
So are you guys putting ads out, or how are you guys attracting them to the point where you can get them to sit in front of you and talk to them a little bit?
Well, our pickups, first of all, are red and they're logoed up. And so, we're kind of as far as being in a sea of white contractors,
right.
When we're on a job, we stick out like a sore thumb, as you can imagine. So, we get that exposure, and then just word of mouth. And but I will tell you that the percentage is very low of people that we talk to that we actually receive and start into that process that I just explained to you. Because if you want to give me half or 3/4 of your effort, go to work for somebody else. I'm not ashamed of saying, when you go home at night, you need to dream about rock crushing. When you wake up in the morning, you need to be thinking about rock crushing. When you go to work, you need to be doing rock crushing. And at the end of the day, you need to start all over again. That's what I expect out of my employees. And it doesn't matter whether you're sweeping floors or you're doing the payroll or you're actually out on the job. That's what we want. We want the best that the industry has to offer. That's what we require here.
And I have to imagine it's a little less intimidating for guys in the industry if you have that reputation of, hey, you don't have to have 15 years experience doing this, right? Like, if you want to work hard and you've got a little bit of character, we can make you successful. And I would have to imagine that kind of spreads through your network there.
That is correct.
Yeah, it's an awesome way to, like I said, attract good talent.
A little red truck out on the job site. Yeah, for sure.
So what does your management team look like over there? How do you guys set up and operate from a management side?
Well, we like to let a lot of the practical decisions be made out in the field where they have the most impact. So we set a threshold, a monetary threshold, as far as what comes up the food chain, as far as decisions that need to be made. So if it's an average day on a site, I won't even hear from a foreman, or maybe our leadership team won't even hear from the foreman. If we have some sort of catastrophic failure, then obviously once it gets past, obviously we need to know about that. So let's just say if someone blows an engine and we need to have a 911 meeting over it, and we need to get low beds moving and backup equipment heading, I'm probably going to hear about that.
Yeah.
But if someone's doing routine maintenance or has a flat tire or something of that nature, blows a hydraulic line, I don't hear about. Those guys take care of all those kinds of things in the field. So.
I got to imagine that back in 2000, you probably didn't have that layer of management in there to kind of go through that. When was that just purely a monetary thing that you knew exactly when you were going to do that, or was that based off of experience? Getting stuck in the weeds all day long. Where did you start kind of implementing that
mindset? Yeah, that mindset change.
Well, what changed my mind for me was the government. As time went by, as the turn of the 21st century came, and with Y2K and all that, so did a lot of the regulation. The regulations really started to evolve. So when we first started crushing, we needed one permit for one crusher, and it could work anywhere in the state of California. Well, when we started growing, so did Sacramento's tentacles into our business.
Well, the government never overreaches, though, especially here in California. I don't know what you're talking about.
And so that's when I could no longer, because I can remember, working on a plant, actually, being actively involved in doing what we were doing, and then taking off, to go look at the job that night, getting up early the next morning. And that all turned into, as we grew, just, taking care of the day-to-day operations. And I didn't have time to oversee, comprehensively anyway. I mean, I did the best I could, keeping up with that, with the regulations. And then as we grew into working in mines and things like that, we needed safety managers, to take care of mine safety and health, and properly train our people and safe practices, and all that comes with just a stereotypical company that grows.
Yeah.
Into what we're doing currently.
A lot more paperwork, and things get a little bit more involved as operations and the scope of what you guys are doing grow, for sure.
Yeah, I get asked quite a bit, if you knew back then what you knew now, would you do it again? I'd say, no way. Not a chance.
Be running one crusher and just putting around.
I'd probably go to work for somebody, a good company. I don't know, UPS or something. I don't know. Pick one. Chick-fil-A. I could eat chicken all day. I don't know.
There you go. So, from a technology standpoint, we talk to contractors quite often about how technology is moving at a pretty rapid pace in the industry and really changing the way a lot of the things operate. Are you guys seeing any of that? I mean, like you said, what you guys do is pretty straight line and antiquated. I can't imagine there much technology that's being introduced into what you guys do, or maybe speak to that a little bit, how that's.
Well, when I want to say back in 2001, we hadn't been in business very long. We took delivery of a track-mounted rock crusher, which was kind of a morphodite looking. No one really had any European style of rock crushing. And back when we started, the industry was used to the more massive rock crusher you could have, the better. So people would truck from miles and miles and miles away, broken rubble, concrete, asphalt into these big, massive piles, and people would back up these big, huge crushers to them and crush. And we kind of had to re-educate the industry into saying, hey, look, we can bring this thing right to your job site, right to your batch plant. You don't need to haul this to a landfill. You don't need to haul it to a recycling site. We can come right here and do it. And that took like wildfire, because at that point, there were guys that moved their plants in 22 loads, and we moved ours in 2.
Wow.
So we literally just kind of took the industry by storm, really. And I will say that a lot of people in the industry thought those track mounted crushers were just kind of a fad.
A fad, yeah.
Fade away. But by the time they figured out we weren't going anywhere, it was too late. We had already taken the market in Northern California anyway. So we're not afraid to try new things. As far as technology goes, I want technology away from my rock crushers as far as I can get them. And the illustration I'm going to use is I don't mind them watching over them as a fail-safe. In other words, I like technology watching over my oil pressure, my hydraulic pressure, my temperatures, things of that nature. But as far as telling the plant what to do, I want my operators to do that. And I'll use the Sherman tank in World War II. Germany had a much more sophisticated tank back in World War II. And the problem is they couldn't train tank drivers fast enough, and they were so sophisticated, those tank drivers couldn't work on them. And so they got run over by the Sherman that were much easier to run, because teachers had to run these things, and craftsmen had to run them, and farmers had to run them, and they jumped into them, and they were successful. Well, the same goes for a rock crusher. I want something the average man can run, and an average man can work on. So I don't like a whole lot of technology, and from a very pragmatic standpoint, do you really want this solid state computer hanging on the side of something that's dusty, dirty, and shakes all day long? Not really, because they don't live. So I like technology as far as, like I described it. I like it to help in advancing, the way we crush, but not exactly as it attaches to my tractors, if any of that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's kind of what I expected the answer to look like, and it makes perfect sense. Where are you guys finding you're getting most of your work? Is it relationships with the demo contractors? Is it state and local municipalities that you guys are doing a lot of work for? Where do you guys find most of that coming in?
It really is cyclical. 1 year might be different than the next. It just depends on where the industry is. And that's the beauty of being a portable company, is you just kind of bend with it.
Ebb and flow wherever it needs. Yeah.
So sometimes it's, recycling, and sometimes it's native, and sometimes it's a correlation of the two. And sometimes it's both. Sometimes you back up on a site and you do native and recycle on the same site. So that's the beauty of the flexibility of our company, is we have we just have a massive array of crushers and screens that allow us a lot of flexibility when we move into somebody's job site.
Very cool.
Well, and and kind of going back to what you were talking about in terms of really kind of changing the industry. And part of me wonders and thinks that that's probably an extension of your earlier comment about bringing in talent, right? You're looking for guys that, eat, sleep, drink, think all the time in terms of rock crushing. And I got to imagine that's probably where you were at when you were starting the business. But that being said, when you and your brother were figuring out what you wanted to do, how you wanted to form the company, was that something that you researched, or was that something that came as a result of working for your dad's company prior, in terms of, hey, let's take the jobs, or let's take the crusher to them as opposed to them bringing the load to us? Like, where did that, where did you find that?
What was the impetus for that? Yeah.
Well, that was just born. We were raised that way. I mean, my dad always taught us that I don't care what you grow up to be, whether you grow up to be a ball player or whether you grow up to be a grocery bagger, you better be the best ball player or grocery bagger that you can be. And so we just thought, whatever we do, we want to work hard at it. And we may not be the smartest, but you can overcome a lot of stupidity with a lot of hard work.
That's true.
So we made a lot of mistakes, and we broke a lot of stuff trying to get better at what we do. And but it made us better at what we do. So I thank my dad for showing us how to work hard and pointing us in a direction. That's for sure.
That's awesome. Getting back to those relationships a little bit, where and where you guys are getting your work from, what's that process look like for you, developing and maintaining some of those relationships? Because I have to imagine that's where most of your business comes from, right? I don't see you guys doing a lot of, or I can't imagine you guys are doing a lot of marketing or, advertising out there in the industry.
Yeah, we do a little bit, but not a whole lot. We maintain a good relationship with our customers, really just by solving their problems. Nowadays, what we do is so heavily regulated that we have an in-house permit guy, and it doesn't matter where we're at now. We've got to apply for and walk through and attain crushing permits, whether it's here, Arizona, Texas, Nevada, Mexico. Doesn't matter where we're at. We are required to get permits. Some are easier than others, and but if we can take that burden off of who we're working for, that's the start of it. And then those permitting processes are starting to become a little more arduous. And so, I had mentioned back when we started, we were running rubber tired, antiquated plants. We're having to go back to those in certain districts now because they're not allowing diesel powered units in their air districts anymore. So we're having to go back in with electrical units, and we bend that way. We're not opposed to making that investment, and it's a huge investment. And so when you form those relationships and your customers that you work for see that you're not just another contractor, you're a partner in business. That's how you keep those relationships. It's not by the fancy sign or the email you sent them that morning. It's boots on the ground. It's a very practical way of keeping that relationship a win-win.
Yeah, like you said, making their job easier. I mean, that permit, that person you have there on staff doing all that permit, I have to imagine that's a huge plus for a lot of these guys is knowing that entire portion of the scope of work is being handled and taken care of by you, and it's nothing that they have to think about.
Certainly. Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, I got to imagine, kind of thinking about your dad and hiring at least you and your brother. Do you have kids or family members that are also working in the business that you're kind of passing this off in terms of legacy?
I'm glad you asked that question. I have 6 children.
Well, that's it.
One daughter. I have more grandchildren than I can count. And they all work in the business. We have a very close family. And so they all work in the business, and we are trying to slowly turn it over to our children, but they're just coming of the age where they're not thinking about the lake on the weekend all the time like they were back when they were teenagers.
Right.
Or this time they're getting up to the slopes, but they're actively taking a larger role, and me and my wife certainly long for the day when we can slip away for more than a weekend and not even give a thought to what's going on, back at work.
Yeah. Do you think that's something that's going to be easy for you to do?
Oh, it's going to be easy for me. About my kids.
Very cool. So what's the future look like for you guys? I mean, what's the next?
Yeah, you're at 12 plants now.
Yeah.
Like, how's that going to expand? Do you have plans for that?
I really just, to be quite honest with you, I just take what God gives me, and if you would have asked me 20 years ago when we started, I would have said, we're going to have this, we're going to make a living for our family, and that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So that really hasn't changed. We're going to make a living for our family, and if we can bless people along the way, we do. But I just take what the industry has to offer, and we'll grow accordingly. So that's kind of where we're at. I can set all the goals that I can dream of, but they're just goals, And I think my accountant asks me this every year, and I reply the same thing. Why are we doing this again? We're setting goals, and I'm going to be wrong. I think 1 year, 1 year out of the 20, it looked intelligent. Like, hey, we did that this year. How's that?
He did it.
It's because I never hit my goal. I never do. And let's just use 2020. And I thought when March 16th rolled around and people started dropping us like a hot potato or a lead balloon because of the pandemic, I thought, well, we're going to be lucky to survive this. And we really had, a great year, one of our best on record, actually. And that's just, like I said, I start my day out on my knees every day, thanking God for what he's given us and point me in a direction. And we started having to branch out a little bit. And we kept everybody busy, all the tractors working, and we've had a great year because of it. Our guys came through too. So they realized what we were up against. And I can tell you 2020, if I had to stereotype it, I would say the tough got tougher.
Yeah, for sure.
The guys dug in and did good. All of us pulled together.
That's awesome.
Well, and I think too, when they see the example that you're setting in terms of the humility that you're offering, getting on your knees every morning and trusting, but at the same time, they're seeing the example of the hard work and the devotion that you've basically given to them so that they can have an example of how to carry that forward. Going back to what we were talking about, getting business. Yeah, you could have a sleek looking card and all sorts of marketing and material and online presence and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're not doing what you're saying you're going to do, and you're not doing when you're saying you're going to do it, that's a pretty easy way to lose business. But you guys are doing the opposite of that. You're full of integrity. You're doing what you say you're going to do, and you do it well. You do it, the hard work. You do it hard work, right? You're grinding, no pun intended. And at the same, as a result, the business is booming, and I think when you have that combination, and I think, kind of going back to the very beginning, that's probably why it's so hard to find talent, because it's easy to say something, but it's much more difficult to actually do what you say you're going to do. But when you do that, I mean, you almost don't need a plan. I think of that. There's that proverb in the Bible that talks about, man plans his steps, but the Lord knows the way. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of the same thing. Like, you can come with all sorts of ideas of what you're going to do next year. Oh, we're going to open 3 more plants. And like, you may or may not. But, as long as you work hard, you grind, you work hard, you move forward, I think it's pretty easy to grow at that point.
Yeah. Man plans his ways, but the steps of a righteous man are ordered by God.
That's the one. That's the one. Very cool. Well, Charlie, hey, thanks so much for coming on board today. We really appreciate having you.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Like I said, this is our first Rock Crusher, and in so many ways, I think the thing I love about the show is, we learn so many different portions of the industry in a very intimate way. I mean, obviously, it's kind of a quick, 30,000 foot view in 30 minutes, but it's exciting for me. I know for Mike too.
Very fun.
That being said, if you could point people in the direction of where to find you if they want to get in contact with you, whether it's a website or phone numbers, emails, whatever.
Social media and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, I would say if you want to get in touch with us, just type in Cow Crush, and it'll probably pop up. Honestly, I don't go to our website a lot. I couldn't even tell you what it looks like. I'm an old man. I'm not a young guy like you guys are. So I don't. My feet are planted in a little different world. I don't mind telling you. But it really has been fun being with you guys. I'll tell you, the next time we do this show, we'll do it on site.
There you
Awesome.
go.
Yeah,
That'd be
let's
fun.
do that.
Very cool.
That would be great. Well, cool, Charlie. Thanks so much for coming on today.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a good one. Stay safe out there.
All right.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.